All right, thank you. They love us.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you, studio audience, for coming out after the blizzard of 2015.
Well, you're here at Art This, number 13.
13.
The show that's about the work that makes art work.
That's right.
That's what this show's about. And we have some great guests this week.
do.
Who are you dealing with?
Well, I got a couple of features to talk about here today. Went out in the field, did a Commonwealth Curiosities feature to add to the lost reel, if you will, of my Commonwealth Curiosities film that debuted last semester. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a second, but tell these great people what we have behind me here,
Well,
John.
you can see we've got the easel, there's some painting supplies. Right here we have Professor of Art Dongfeng Li, who is in the Department of Art Design at Morehead State University, as our special guest, and he's going to paint and talk about the work that makes art work in painting. And I believe it's watercolors today. Isn't that right, Professor Lee? Watercolors. All right, good.
All right.
We're looking forward to that. And then we've got some features from students coming.
We do. We have two features. We have, of course, John Tanner Blevins, our student producer. Very busy this week, and he's done a feature on Professor of Art Gary Mesa Guido that we'll see later in the show. But first, the first feature that we're going to see here was the lost reel, if you will, the last feature of my Commonwealth Curiosities series. This time it was on Aikman's Barbershop. Aikman's Barbershop and Music in Paris, Kentucky.
Let's check
And
it out.
John Tanner Blevins is on camera here along with Patrick Broomback from the Trailblazers. So without any further ado, folks, let's see Aikman's Barbershop.
In the land of Breathitt County, raised a crooked man, made county dry and price high for the bootleg whiskey man.
One of the neatest things is that you get to hear some good musicians like these folks we have over here, that just some really top-notch musicians that are really talented at what they do, and you get to hear a lot of that, and that's just kind of neat. It adds a little bit of cake and ice cream to what you're doing. Went to barber school. We went to Lexington Barber College. And Roger Bailey was the owner at that time. Well, that was, you know, about 39 years ago when I come over with my brother. He had me come over with him and work with him when he brought Mr. Markham out. So we come over and I worked in with that. They'll have jam sessions going, and sometimes they'll let me sing along, sometimes they won't. Oh, my name is Joe Aikman. We come here about 38 or 40 years ago. My brother had worked for a guy by the name of Lewis Markham, went to school under a guy by the name of Lewis Markham, who was his instructor. And Lewis come over and bought this shop out from the Spiveys, Holbert and Dennis Spivey, who run it. And he brought his star student over with him to help him out, which was my brother, who is now deceased. And then when he worked for him for 2 or 3 years, and then he bought him out. And then when he bought him out, I was working in Lexington, Winchester actually at that time, and I come over with him from there, and then we've been here ever since. Well, my dad's brother was String Bean. He's a member of the Grand Ole Opry and also played on Hee Haw, and that we're awful proud of him. And we do a lot of different things. We'll do bluegrass, we'll do country, we'll do a lot of different styles. Just whatever they want to play, that's fine with us. And we'll do we give guitar lessons and bass lessons, and we give, if anybody wants to be taught on the guitar and bass and banjo, we give some banjo lessons. We can help them out on that. We do. We have some. They'll see the music out front, and they'll stop by and stop in and play us a tune. We love for people to come by and listen to them. We get to listen to a lot of real good musicians as they come by and they'll see us and see a guitar in a window or something, they'll stop in. And we really enjoy listening to them and listening to different musicians play and sing for us. That's a pleasure to us. Paris is probably the best place in the world to be. And the people are friendly and nice, and they're just a great bunch of people in Paris. It's the center of the world. The rest of the world rotates around Paris, Kentucky, and we got the greatest people in the world. The only people that come close to them would be the ones in Jackson County, where I was raised, and they come real close to being number one. Both of them do, the people up there. Yeah, come get a haircut and hear some music and play us a tune.
Let's clean up and go play ball. Yeah! This is where the trash goes.
Okay.
Woodsy! Score one for our team.
That's teamwork.
Yeah! Wow. We give a hoot, so we won't pollute.
Team up.
Join the Woodsy team!
Thank you all. Thank you so much. And welcome back to Art This. We are thrilled this month to have on the show MSU Department of Art and Design Professor Dongfeng Li, who teaches watercolor, painting, and drawing at MSU to a range of students. Professor Li holds advanced degrees in art education and fine art. He's a signature member of the esteemed American Watercolor Society, just of a handful of artists in the state of Kentucky given this distinction. Li's work has appeared in Watercolor Artists magazine, as well as the Louisville Courier-Journal, and on television station WKYT in Lexington. Currently, he has artworks displayed all over the nation, including a permanent collection of artwork at the Mobile, Alabama Museum of Art. He has won numerous prestigious awards for his work in the state, region, and nation. Please give a warm Art This welcome to Professor Li. All right. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome so much.
Thank you.
All right. Well, feel free to work and answer questions and explain things along the way. But one of the questions I always have for painters is your work more like what the photographer does or what the poet does?
Okay. I thought about that question quite a long time. That I think that a little bit from each, and the photographer and that they probably have to plan and pre-design, and then the poet probably have a lot of romantic thinking, imagination. But artists probably have both of them, but rely on, especially watercolor or some of the modern art, on the way of a process. They kindly try to, during the process, they find some like interesting way or interesting to hold on the art. So that's what I, give the definition.
Yes. Professor Li, you've been involved with the American Watercolor Society. Can you tell us a little bit about how that happened and what it meant for you?
Started the watercolor back in the 2007 or 6 something, that the first time that I very admired the American Watercolor Society signature members or in their show, because they have the longest history in the world. I mean, they have like 150 years, history in their art association. Yes. And big masters and all the signature members. So I started to send the join a competition back in 2008, but very lucky that I were juried in the first time. So I started from there. I was really, I wanted to put myself concentrating on the watercolor and to see what I can get. Mm-hmm. And plus, I really wanted to join the group in that way, and I will step up another platform and to, appreciate or to compete with the, the world best watercolor artist.
Very good, very good. Now, you've got a drawing for us here, which you've started. Once you've got your drawing, how do you begin to paint? What is your first decision to put that first brush down? What's your goal?
I'm working on a watercolor, and when I see the people, like this model is one of my very good students, Nathan. And I just love the light skin tone and also his beard, and that's typical character. And we didn't have a lot of beard people in China, I'm sorry. And so I'm so interested in the lighting something, and plus his you know, personality. And I always want to dig out what is the interesting part. And if I don't know him, of course I don't know him completely, I want to see what I can do if I present his image in my painting. So, and plus there's some technical issue like a wash or somebody who really want to bring up to see how can I enrich my painting. So my first thing is I want to draft them out. I want to put in a big contrast, dark and light to start with. My brush stroke is probably going to be a little subtle. I mean, you know, the paint's going to be a little subtle. I will start with. So, did I answer your question?
Could you show us a little
yes,
bit?
Yes, okay. I've been discussing and exchange idea with another professor, Wayne Willis, Dr. Willis.
Yes.
And this is the first time I wanted to use acrylic on the, you know, on the Yupo paper. It's not a very traditional watercolor paper. It's a very slick paper. I want to use a very subtle acrylic paints to start with, and then let it dry, and then I'm going to, you know, glaze or put my second or third coat of watercolor. So acrylic paints is not very easy to, you know, remove. So that's really bounced on this slip, very, very slip paper. It's good for me. So I can start with, and I will use a big brush, and also the foam roller, and so to start with my acrylic. And by the way, the dripping is part of my language or vocabulary in my paintings. I don't really like, a lot of people ask my question, do you like to make the board or paper flat? I really don't. I like them to stand up there, and this is how I blend my, see, you can tell. Keep going, and I throw the paints on my paper all at the same time, different color, everything. I want them to run together to play themselves, and then to see what is the interesting, you know, collaboration or effect.
Is it helping you to make decisions as you see them
And like,
there?
yeah, I like what I said. The watercolor now, and I need some like serendipity. Is that word?
Yes.
And some happy accident. So I really want to, you know, see that during my process, instead of with very, very, you know, careful rendering. See, you can tell now I got a pretty dark value on the socket area, and then the reflection down on the beard. I can throw more color. So can roll in. And I created like a light and dark, a very clear map on this portrait there. And also at the same time I can do, you know, extra texture. Sorry. If I need a little different, you see that? And then some wrapping.
So what I would like to ask you is, now that you've roughed out and done your experiments with blending and different textures, what will begin to move the painting toward more representational? Are there things you're going to do, or will you leave it more abstract as it's now existing?
No, I'm going to start to sharpen off some edges to make start to make this portrait take off.
Yes,
I
but
mean,
that first step, you're seeing the colors you want to see several layers in,
yeah,
and you're putting those down now,
yeah,
knowing what will happen to them.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
And that, I guess, came through years of practice and experience.
Yes, and especially lately, I work on this paper. I've been working with this paper for four or 5 years.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, before we close our talk today, what will remain with the work on this painting? Do you have weeks or months where you'll work on it just a little bit at a time, or do you stick with it until it's finished?
Watercolor, that doesn't need a long time, but it needs a very perfect, timing with water and the color and brush strokes. So if I, say I can finish this portrait within the 3 hours easily, but I will, while I work on that, my process, I work on that, I leave the painting there for probably a day or two or probably a week, because I need to see what I can do.
Yes.
I don't want to overdone it, and I don't want to ruin it, because, see, very interesting, effective wash and dripping happened. So I'm going to keep that and redirect my design of the portrait. And these exactly what I talk about, serendipity. You have to see how during your process you can keep some interesting part, which isn't, it's hard to get them the second time. So how are you going to, adjust your design, what's your plan,
So you're making the watercolor, but the watercolor is making you make
yes.
it.
Watercolor can play itself. And when they play interesting way, you have to keep that. You can't get the second time. I mean, you want it to, exactly follow the same way, but it's hard. So see, very interesting way it happened here. So I have to keep that. And the very interesting color
yes,
here.
That's working.
So I'm going to sharpen the edges and start to making a clear map.
Yes, and bring out that's the next step.
Yes, yes.
Well, before we end our talk today, what is the best piece of technical advice or any advice you could give to a new watercolorist who wants to get started and begin to get in?
Oh, that's a very tough question, very professional question. So a lot of way, and my experience, I can't give the suggestion. Because watercolor, everybody works in a different way, and my experience tell me, and you have to use water. And then be brave. And a lot of people tell, I'm scared to use water. I'm scared to use dark color. Just try to jump out of your comfort zone, and just try to waste some paper, the time, and then you'll get some a very valuable experience.
Thank you, Professor Lee. It's been a pleasure to work with you.
Thank you very much.
All right, we'll be right back on Art This. Thank you so much, and give a warm goodbye to Professor Lee. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all. Welcome back. And thank you to Professor Lee. That was fantastic. And folks, we have a second feature here done by our student producer, John Tanner Blevins. With the first piece at Aikman's Barbershop, Tanner went out and did a feature on Professor of Art Gary Mesa-Guido and his digital photography and multimedia editing skills with panoramics and photo stitching. Tanner went out a week or so ago and chatted with Gary, and we have a fantastic feature. So if we can, let's take a look at Gary Mesa-Guido, Professor of Art, as our Art This student feature this week.
I think it's the idea, you know, really that's the thing that kind of moves anybody to do anything. You know, if you don't have an idea, it's so hard to get started with anything that you're doing. You know, try to write a story without an idea. You know, you sit down, sketchbook, piece of paper, the pen. I'm going to make up a story now. You know, that's hard to do. If you don't have an idea, you know, coming that sort of spurs the whole thing along. But for me, it's usually some shred of an idea of a concept or a basic sort of thing that's this small maybe that I can turn into a bigger idea. And sometimes for my other photography, it's where I'm traveling to that inspires that. And so there's a lot of inspiration coming into me at that point, and I can draw from it, whether it's a place or a landscape or a group of people doing something that interests me and make me take that photograph, and then that leads to, you know, okay, what else is going on here that I can include with this to sort of explain the context of the situation. Well, the process is, you know, kind of what we got going on right here, which we have a camera sitting on a tripod, and then several photographs are taken of the scene, and then take that whole bunch of photographs together and bring them into Photoshop, lay them side by side, match them up as best as possible, and then sort of take the line away by just softening that edge of where the two connect with a mask, and then get them to fit together a little bit better just by sort of repositioning them and manipulating the image up and down a little bit to sort of get the lines to meet. The new work came about with a process that was largely just kind of discovered, or an invention, that were several different ways to do things and just putting them together in different kind of aspects, connecting them in ways people wouldn't normally think of. The idea first came up with my interest in long exposure photography, time-lapse photography. And I was doing these experiments shooting out a window of an airplane while it was taking off and landing. And at night, that was crucial, it needed to be at night, because I wanted these long exposures that weren't overexposed but had some really good color to them. But I didn't know what the colors were going to be, because they were, you know, everything's moving by the window at 800 miles per hour. You have no idea what you're capturing over the course of 3 or 5 seconds. And I didn't really know what I had until I got back to my studio and I started looking at them. And I thought they were kind of interesting and kind of cool, but there was some sort of lack of depth to them. So I started layering them the way that I do my panoramic photographs, where I combine several photographs together that have different exposure levels. We call this high dynamic range compositions, but it was definitely away from the application of that as a practical way of applying HDR photography. What I was getting were these very abstract kind of images, and I was like, what can I do with this now that I've got these images that are abstract digital files? And then I thought, I knew of this technique that became popularized in the last few years of printing on aluminum. And so I sent these files away and had some tests done with a company that prints on aluminum, and I got them back, and I was really excited about them, and I thought, hey, this is a pretty good idea. And it worked out good too, because when you're flying in an airplane, you know, it's a big package of aluminum that you're flying in. So I thought it was apropos to print on that. Yeah, it's sort of in this case, the kind of the image kind of pushed me to experiment and to try different things, and to you know, take chances and go go outside the lines in a sense. And that allowed me to discover something that I didn't think was going to happen and that I liked. What does art mean to me? That's a big question. You know, it sort of changes from year to year. For me, as a visual artist, my ideas of what art is has been, from the early stages, has been through like the process of making art, trying to come to terms with techniques and processes, and that for me was, in the beginning, was really what art was about. But then later it became more about what I was saying with it and what the art was saying. And then, and so I think I'm at that point where I'm trying to get the two to work together. You know, the process, the techniques, the content, all to come together to be able to speak as far as a message that's concerned.
Monsters do have their place. In the zoo, in your nightmares, in the deep, in your favorite horror movies. But not in your living room, on your TV. Don't let pay TV be the monster in your living room. Pay TV and cable TV companies are seeking the right to charge you for the very programs you now get free. If you want to stop pay TV and save free television, sign the petition in the lobby of this theater. Let your lawmakers know how you feel in the fight against pay TV and cable TV.
Hey, kid, have a carrot. A carrot? Carrot sticks are, yes, indeed. They are delicious. If you must eat in between meals, why not eat nutritious dishes? Like fill a bowl with ice cubes, then add raw cauliflower. Stuff celery with cheese and let it chill for half an hour. Add carrot sticks and olives and any other knickknacks. Then keep this by the TV set for when you want those quick snacks. Well?
Well, but while I'm waiting, could you make me a banana?
Okay, you're a banana.
Wow, a great piece on Professor Gary Mesigaido. And Gary makes a point that other people that we've talked to over our last 12 programs have made, that you struggle with technique early on.
Yes.
And you master technique, and after a while you can stop thinking about it and move into other things that you are wanting to express. And so it's great to hear that theme. That encourages the beginner, I think, to live through all of the struggles of technical mastery. So thank you so much, Gary.
Thank you, Gary.
And what about Professor Lee? Didn't he do great?
Fantastic.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for coming on, Professor Lee.
Yeah.
And who else did we have on the show this week? Anybody?
We featured Aikman's Barber Shop.
That's right,
in Paris,
Aikman's.
Kentucky, folks. Go out to Paris, Kentucky, get a haircut and jam with those guys.
That's right. And you don't have to be able to play. You can just sit around and sing or laugh or eat a pickle or whatever you want to do.
Yeah, don't drink the stuff in the green jar, though.
Yeah, don't do that. He did that. It took him a week to get over it.
13 episodes, John. You think you'd ever get to 13?
I never really did, and I was kind of hoping we could skip 13 and just go right to 14 like you do in the elevators in some old buildings. But that's all right. It went fabulously.
It was.
I think we should be pleased, but I guess it's time for us to get out of
it
here.
Is. Yeah.
Thank you, audience.
Need to go
We're going
home.
to jam our way out. We'll see you next time.